so weird prepping Barbie as a character, um, because it was like all my usual tools didn't apply for this character. So I usually like I have the things that I do, and I work with an acting coach, and I work with a dialect coach, and I work with a movement coach, and I read everything, and I watch all the things. And when it's a real life person or whatever, it's the things that you were talking about. If it's a made up person, whatever, I rely on animal work a lot. And um, and I was, maybe like 45 minutes into pretending to be a flamingo or whatever, and I was suddenly like, it's not working. The animal isn't helping me with Barbie. I was like, oh God, I don't know how to find her. And yeah, it was like, normally I do a couple, like I have a couple of things I normally do. So I make up childhood memories. So I think of like, say half a dozen core childhood memories, and that helps me explain why they do the things they do in the script. So like, this is the first time they were extremely humiliated in a public setting, or this is the first time they felt betrayed, or like whatever. But I couldn't do that for her because she was invented out of a vacuum and lived in a, so all the things I normally did didn't work. The animal work didn't work. The childhood memories didn't work. Even the accent wasn't something to cling on to. Normally I'm like, okay, what accent are we doing? So they grew up there, and what time, and da-da-da. And even that, it was like, no, I should be from nowhere, but kind of general, but so I was really struggling. It was like she was so smooth and shiny. I had like nothing to grab onto, and I was like, I don't know where you are, even though she was written beautifully in the script. Anyways, I went to Greta and I was like, help me. I don't know where to start with this character. And I was like, she was like, okay, what are you scared of? And I was like, I don't want her to seem dumb and ditzy, but she's also not meant to know anything. She's meant to be completely naive and ignorant. And Greta found this episode on This American Life, a podcast, where it was a woman who doesn't or can't introspect, like doesn't have the voice in her head.
Oh, wow.
That's like constantly narrating life the way we all do. And so that was like an instance where I was like, oh, so she doesn't have that voice. And this woman's like, got a PhD and is extremely smart, but just doesn't have that internal monologue.
Is she happy?
Yeah, totally. And
is she happier, do you think?
God, I wondered about that. When the interview was asking her, like, so if you're like looking out a window, she's like, I'm just looking out a window. She's like, it didn't even occur to me that it didn't introspect until one day I suddenly realized as a grown woman that my parents were one day going to die. And she was like inconsolable, thinking that. And her boyfriend was like, what's wrong? She's like, my parents are going to die one day. And he was like, had you not thought about that before? She was like, no. She kind of thinks exactly what's in front of her, like a spotlight to what exactly is in front of her at the time.
Well, that's perfect.
Yeah, it was really interesting. So things like that, I was like, wow. And then Greta's like, references for, okay, I want the cadence of your speech to be like, we did this thing called movie church. So every Sunday morning we would invite all the cast and crew, whoever wanted to come to the Notting Hill Electric Cinema, which is such a good cinema, and watch a movie that was somehow related to Barbie.
Like what, for example?
So like, for example, we'd watch His Girl Friday, because Greta would be like, I want all the Barbies at the dance party to have that rhythm, like when they speak, like it should be like da, 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 da. And it's funny, Greta sometimes I think she uses this to find the comedy in scenes too. She doesn't look at the monitor, like she closes her eyes and she just listens to a scene.
Yeah.
She's really tuned into like the rhythm, which is really interesting. But then there might be a reference, like we'd watch The Red Shoes, because we were coming up with the LUT for the camera, like the color chart, the IB Tech, we called it Techno Barbie, because we wanted it to look like that, kind of like really poppy, saturated 50s soundstage musical. Or we'd watch 2001 Space Odyssey, because there's a reference. Gosh, we watched so many movies.
What a nice thing to do.
It was the best. It was so fun.